So today we're talking about cybersecurity and knowledge for real estate, a very important topic, especially with the pandemic 2020, remote work from home, everyone relying on their mobile devices. Now more than ever, we need to be aware of all the security threats that are out there and how we can protect ourselves, our family, business contacts, partners. My friends and family, they call me Johnny IT. When I was young, my friends and family would come to me for assistance with their computer issues, viruses, any type of computer related thing. And fortunately, I turned it into a career. And I also have a side project. It's called Cali Disconnect. I go to Madison College. I talk to the students, the high school students, about their future in IT and information security. I've also presented at the Latino Chamber of Commerce, talking to their incubator group of entrepreneurs and business owners on protecting themselves. So let's get into it. A little introduction about myself. Graduated from Madison College, got a 2-year degree as an IT network specialist. Now I've been working in the mortgage industry for 8+ years, protecting customer information and all the different relationships between business partners, clients. I'm a certified professional, so after I graduated, I continued studying, taking exams, passing them to always maintain the latest information and trends going on within the security landscape. And I practice security in my own life. I don't just go into work and start talking about security and then forget about it once I get home. All these concepts that we're going to discuss about today, I incorporate into my own life. Now, why should you care? Why should you care about security, security awareness, the threats that are impacting not only real estate, but just any and every industry across this world? You want to protect your reputation, your brand, and your business. You have the experience, you've put in the work to build up the business. You want to maintain that and not have it impacted by some negative chain of events. You want to protect your confidential information. It's for your eyes only and your partners, and you don't want that getting leaked out, abused, manipulated. You want to protect your identity in your accounts. Especially last year, identity theft was huge. Fraudulent PPP loans, people's taxes being filed, unemployment claims, things of that nature. We want to make sure we're protecting our identity, our client's identity, our accounts, protecting your customers and your business partners. And by knowing about these threats, then you're going to be able to save valuable time focusing on your business, because now you know what to look out for. And if something doesn't seem right, something seems out of place, you have some kind of sensation going off, trust your instincts and know how to recognize these threats, therefore save valuable time focusing on your business. We need to be aware of these threats. And we always need to ask ourselves, whenever we're on the internet, whenever we're interacting via text message, email, some type of social media, we need to ask ourselves, should I trust this? So let's talk about a concept of social engineering. We like movies, action, horror, suspense. It involves actors, good actors. That's what social engineering is. Social engineering is the use of deception to manipulate individuals into divulging confidential or personal information that may be used for fraudulent purposes. Social engineering is the clever manipulation of the natural human tendency to trust. We want to trust who we're interacting with. We're receiving communications and emails from people that we believe that we trust, but we're not, at the end of the day, unless we're talking to someone face to face, unless we're talking to someone via telephone with someone that we have within our contacts list, we always have to ask ourselves, can I trust this? So let's talk about social engineering. Specifically, let's talk about impersonation. 2020, the pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people were furloughed. People were trying to find work. The bad guys, took advantage of this. I can't tell you how many text messages I received last year and into this year of people offering me loans via text message for a cheap interest rate, or to receive $500, $1,000 per week to wrap my vehicle up with a Coca-Cola ad. Those are fake jobs and fake loans. What they're trying to do is either trying to send you a cashier's check that they're going to float. Maybe they're saying they're going to pay you $500, but in reality, they send you a cashier's check for $2,000, and they say, "Hey, go ahead and keep that $500, but send me back $1,500." And guess what? That cashier's check eventually bounces. And who are they coming after? They're coming after the person that applied for that fake job, the person that applied for that fake loan, maybe using their bank account as a vehicle to move stolen money. Other forms of impersonation, wire fraud, which we'll get into more in our industry, unauthorized payroll changes, fake CEOs requesting employee W-2s, getting requests from a fake manager asking for an iTunes gift card, Walgreens gift card, CVS gift card, receiving a message from a family member or business partner that they're robbed and they're stuck in the Philippines, they're in jail somewhere, they need Western Union, they need some help. So as we can see here in this particular example right here, this is an example of an impersonation of a CEO. But as we can see here, it's coming from this sketchy Gmail address. And throughout this presentation, some of these things have been edited out, but the name of the CEO would be here. And they're targeting this gentleman named John. Swift response, John. Kindly, red flag, get back to me with your cell number. I have an urgent task for you. Thanks. So then if the target replies back, chances are these are some of the things that they're going to get targeted with. Hey, I need you to do this wire for me. I'm in a meeting right now. I can't take phone calls. But can you send this wire for me ASAP? Or can you change my direct deposit? Can you send me all the W-2s of all our employees so I can utilize them to file fraudulent tax claims and refunds under their account? Any of these type of things can occur with these type of emails. Let's take a look at some additional examples here. We have someone impersonating Sue, and they're coming from this sketchy email address. And sometimes, especially when we're mobile on our mobile phones, this can be even more difficult to see and view. These are examples that are from an email client on a laptop and desktop. Sometimes it could even be more difficult when we're mobile on our phones. But as we can see here, someone's impersonating Sue. They're sending it to a payroll department, talking about changes in the direct deposit details. Hi, I changed my bank and I'd like to change my direct deposit details. Can I email you with the new banking information to make the change for me right away? Thanks, Sue. Here goes another impersonation right here. Someone impersonating Matt, talking about a paycheck, emailing Carla, saying, okay, below is my new account number and routing number. Here's my routing number, here's my account number. It's with Green Dot Bank. Sometimes the bad guys will use those online financial institutions that have no brick and mortar presence to try and open up an account with those online only banks to then try and move money around. Amount to go in 100%. Kindly let me know when it has been updated for my pay to go in it. Thanks, Matt. Here's another interesting one. So think about this. This may be somebody that you know. You may get an email from somebody that you know and you recognize this email address. But in this case, this gentleman named John that has a Comcast.net email account, his email account has been compromised. And now the bad guy in control of his account is sending an email to us. We're going to pretend we're Tom. And John's asking us, hello, do you have an account with Amazon? Thanks. So if we hit the reply button, even though we see originally we got it from a John at Comcast.net, if we hit the reply button, we see, if we're paying attention, that the reply is actually going to a totally different email account, a John at Outlook.com. The reason behind that is this email account has been compromised, and the bad guy that's in control of this email account is trying to gain access to someone's Amazon Prime account to maybe get some gift cards or make some type of order. but they don't want to tip off the person that they've compromised. So they actually, when they sent the email, they changed the reply to. So even though it came from Comcast, if you hit reply, the reply to is going to a totally different email account as to not tip off the compromised party. So the bad guy can continue to target all their contacts with this scam. Here goes some more impersonation. This is an impersonation of the CEO sending an email to a Tammy. Hi, Tammy, I changed my bank and I'd like to change my paycheck direct deposit details. Can the change be effective for the current pay date? Thank you. Sent from my iPhone. Here goes another impersonation of a CEO. Good morning. I recently changed my banks. I need you to have my direct deposit changed to my new account. My previous account on file will be inactive in 30 days. I need your prompt assistance in this matter. This is an impersonation of a borrower and co-borrower. And the middle name is Lee, L-E-E. But as we can see in this Gmail account, there's something's wrong here. This isn't Lee Conway, this is Lay Conway. So the bad guys will create email accounts with free services, Gmail, Hotmail, to then impersonate anyone and everyone in a real estate transaction. So this is supposed to be Lee, but it's L-A-E. So this is a bad guy. And they're CCing the co-borrower. But guess what? This isn't really the co-borrower. That's not Conway with the W. That's 2-letter V's, lowercase V's, to try and make it look like a W. So just those little subtle little things right there. Unfortunately we gotta have attention to detail to catch those kind of things, because this is all impersonation right here. And let's see what they're asking. Hi, Steve. I know it might be too early to ask for this, but I just need a quick breakdown of the final amount that will be needed, or closing statement showing the final amount that will be needed at closing. Please advise. So maybe they're trying to get the closing disclosure. And on page 5 of that closing disclosure, that's like the blueprint for all parties involved in the real estate transaction. You got the loan officer, you got the settlement agent, escrow, attorney, title, etc. So that closing disclosure, page 5, if that gets into the wrong hands, now the bad guy has the blueprint for that particular loan on who they need to impersonate. And then it's trivial for them to create a Gmail account or whatever free email account, making those subtle changes, or even just registering a domain, that's very similar to your organization's domain. So it looks very close with these type of strategies to impersonate parties, create diversion, obtain information they shouldn't be getting access to, or try and manipulate people to send the wire to a different direction, different location and account. Here goes an impersonation also of a bad guy that's trying to get the buyer's contact information. So they can set them up to try and get their down payment and say, hey, you know what? So as we can see here, this is just coming from some sketchy Comcast account, loan.closer at comcast.net. They're talking about some type of loan associated with the man over at 573 Santa Fe Trail. They're trying to impersonate somebody, a person named Candace over at First American. First American gets impersonated all the time. Their images are used for phishing emails and that kind of thing. But this is all impersonation. It's easy to copy and paste all this stuff and manipulate people. So they're trying to get the borrower's contact information, their telephone number and email address, so then they can reach out to the buyer and say, hey, you know what? This is the wire team. We have these wire instructions for you. We need you to send your down payment to this location. And then if the buyer sends their down payment to the wrong bank account, if they don't act immediately, if they don't go down to the bank, if the bank doesn't get the FBI involved, if a week passes, if 2 weeks passes, you can kiss that money goodbye. And then it's going to be haywire after that. Let's talk about another concept with social engineering, phishing. We live in this beautiful state of Wisconsin. Beautiful lakes everywhere. People like to go fishing during the winter time, whenever, summertime. This fishing is a little different. This phishing is spelled with the PH, and it's the fraudulent practice of sending emails impersonating legitimate companies, brands, or people in order to manipulate individuals to reveal personal information such as passwords, and credit card numbers. This is straight from the FBI right here. They publish this annually. Public service announcement, May 4th, 2017. Business email compromise, the $5 billion scam. Those numbers are only reported. July 12th, 2018. Business email compromise, the $12 billion scam. More than doubled in a year right there. September 10th, 2019. Business email compromise, the $26 billion scam. And in one of these annual reports, they specifically called out the real estate sector. And they said business email compromise actors, the bad guys, heavily targeted the real estate sector in recent years. Victims participating at all levels of a real estate transaction have reported such activity. This includes title companies, law firms, real estate agents, buyers and sellers. Victims most often report a spoofed email being sent, an impersonation email with those type of either compromising a professional's email account or just creating some impersonation email accounts to start impersonating parties. And so our email accounts are very valuable because they contain a wealth of information in our inbox and our sent items. They have our contacts list. So if our email accounts get compromised, that's the wealth of information. That's the treasure trove of information that these bad guys have access into. Maybe your backed up photos and your contacts, your calendars, your messages, access into your other accounts as well, your bank accounts, your utilities, any business related accounts that they could log into. I've seen secure email message services being abused where the bad guy will even try and send a legit secure email, but inside the secure legit email, it'll have a phishing link. And that's a result of parties having their email accounts being compromised and the bad guys being able to log into those and then trying to add a sense of trying to socially engineer you and make what they're sending you believable. They're also connected to bank accounts and harvesting other information, Dropbox, any type of file shares where we're storing stuff, Google Drive, Microsoft Drive, Dropbox, Box, any personal information we have, if we have taxes in there, anything and everything within our email accounts is connected to other accounts. So if they have access to our main email account, they can start resetting passwords of other email accounts as well if we don't have additional protections in place. So that we know that our email accounts are very valuable. Let's start looking at a couple of example phishing emails. We have this one right here, impersonating Stewart Title. And a lot of the times for their subject lines, they'll use something along closing, HUD, closing, wire instructions, encrypted, secure, really trying to encourage the recipient to open something. Review closing document, clicking on the link, it goes to a web page that looks official. It looks like it's Microsoft. It's looking for your username and password. But when we hover over that link, if it's going to, ilovecoffeeshops.com, we got to be just paying attention to where that link leads to. And sometimes on our email client, we could just hover over the link and without clicking it, it'll tell us the final destination. So if it's something that's sketchy, I like shoes or travel to Hawaii.com or something's not right. And they're trying to steal our password, or maybe even get us to download a malicious virus or something. Here goes another impersonation right here, impersonating Caliber Home Loans, but it's coming from this MEC Florida email address. It's talking about a loan number that's not even existent in the loan origination system. So just double checking the information provided, like, okay, I'm not going to click this link, but who is this? Let me look up this loan number. Oh, it's non-existent in the system. I don't even know what loan these people are talking about. Hovering over the link, it's going to a sketchy location trying to steal our password. Continuing to use brands. I see Dotloop brand being abused all the time for impersonation. OneDrive, DocuSign, Dropbox, Citrix ShareFile, WeTransfer. The bad guys always like using WeTransfer to try and send some viruses or something of that nature. So we see a compromised law firm here with their email account being utilized to send what looks like a fake DocuSign email. Law firm closing, click this link, get your password stolen. This is where that link leads to. It leads to this web page trying to use images that we're familiar with, PDFs, Adobe Acrobat, that kind of thing. Click here to view the document, download the link, type in your username and password. Here goes an example right here of phishing where this is an employee being impersonated, but the bad guy used a mail.com account. So just imagine your employee's name dot the name of your company at mail.com. That's what they'll do. They'll sign up for a Gmail, mail.com to make it look official if people aren't paying attention, using a non-existent loan number, and then just sending it to their targets. So this is a secure message from the mortgage corporation. Click here, and they'll even copy and paste someone's signature to make it look legit. Oh, this is from Michelle. Yeah, she's the branch support specialist and closer. So that's another strategy that they'll use as well. We got to pay attention to where these links lead to. And if something isn't right, let's engage one of our IT support or someone that's savvy to be able to take a look and give us a second pair of eyes on this before we start visiting it. They'll try and impersonate Microsoft, Zix Corp, all those different types of encrypted email systems. This is a impersonation from the bad guy. And this is the destination. If we had clicked on that link, oh, okay, it looks like Dropbox, but the URL is something totally different. That final destination website, totally different. Just utilizing brands that we know to try and manipulate us with those brands that we know and we've seen before. We know about those brands. That's what they're doing. Here goes an email from a Harold Lean, operation manager 60 at gmail.com. Mortgage banking license suspension. To field is blank. We don't know who this was sent to. That's because everyone was blind carbon copied. They probably sent this to hundreds of people. Mortgage banking license service alerts. We have reviewed your account verification information. For security reasons, kindly verify your registered email address. Click that link, get taken to a website with the username and password to get your password stolen right here. So that's a scam email. Here goes another one from a Harold Lean 234 at gmail.com. Membership suspensions notice. Once again, we have no idea who this was sent to. So everyone's blank carbon copied, or sometimes you'll even see it from somebody and to the same person, where everyone's blank carbon copy. This is talking about the Greater Baton Rouge Association of Realtors. Once again, membership verification alerts, kindly verify your registered email address, click here, log in, get your password stolen. This is a pop-up. This is when we're visiting a website, and all of a sudden we're getting a pop-up, and now it's telling us that, oh, this is Microsoft support, and we're detecting some type of suspicious activity from your IP address. So go ahead and just type in your username and password. Or you can call this telephone number to call a call center of a bunch of scam artists that are trying to get on your computer and maybe install something to scrape everything off your computer, scrape all your saved passwords and emails and things of that nature. This is all just social engineering and a scheme right here. So let's see how it works. Let's see how it works here. Let's zoom in to this example. How does it all work? Well, a criminal is going to send a targeted phishing email to their target. We rely on a lot of marketing, a lot of leads and that kind of thing. So we'll have websites that'll have information published. Maybe we'll have our telephone number and email addresses published. So that's easy for the bad guys to scrape all that information and start targeting people. That's why sometimes it's nice to just have a contact us page where they can fill in the contact us page as opposed to publishing information. You know, it's tricky because then the bad guys, they'll jump on the opportunity, start gathering up that information, start targeting us. And then if we click on the link, number 2, we get taken to a link and redirected to a phishing website. And then if we type in our credentials into that phishing website, then the bad guy gets them. The bad guy gets our credentials and they'll log into our email account and maybe they'll set up a forwarding rule. So any future emails that hit that email account, they don't even have to log into that email account anymore because the bad guy set up an email forwarding rule to forward anything and everything to an email account that the bad guy controls. And then the bad guy is going to monitor the inbox to obtain information about invoices, payments, other financial details, wire transfers, down payments. And when the opportunity arises, the cyber criminal uses his intel to send a fake invoice to the organization's customer, informing the customer of new banking details. And the customer, not realizing that the email is fake, the customer pays the invoice, depositing the money directly into the cyber criminal's bank account. So that's one example right there of how it works. And this representation is basically the same thing that we've discussed. Someone gets phished, they'll set up an email forwarding rule to forward emails out to their own email account. They'll start monitoring for high value transactions or personally identifiable information, name, date of birth, social security number, trying to steal someone's identity to start taking out loans, taking out unemployment claims, that type of thing. That's what they're looking for. So here goes an example right here. Let's take a look at this example right here. This is a bad guy. This is an impersonator emailing a client in the morning. Good morning. To avoid closing delay, you're to wire $12,607.14 cash to close today. Any excess funds will be returned to you in the form of a cashier's check at closing. Please plan on bringing 2 forms of identification with you to the closing, one of which should be the driver's license, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So fortunately, as we can see here, the borrower knew something was wrong. Talk about wire fraud. Look what got emailed to me on Friday, December 20th. Thankfully, it went to my spam filter. But if it hadn't, if I hadn't noticed the email address was different, I might have considered it. Hope you have a wonderful Christmas. One day before Christmas, things could have went real haywire for this person had they not had their spidey sense. And that's why we got to make sure that the professionals that are involved are informing our clients of these threats so they know who to trust and who not to trust and what not to trust when they receive something sketchy via email. Let's take a look at this one right here. This is a bad guy that sent an email at 3:52 a.m. in the morning. Person that sent this with this impersonation Gmail account, they're most likely overseas somewhere in a totally different continent. So this bad guy ended up accidentally sending this to the wrong party. They meant to send this to the client, but they actually sent this to the processor. So they messed up. They meant to send this to the client. Good morning, doctor. I have a call from ESCO company yesterday. They have the wire instructions and will have it sent to me in the morning. Can you get the wire transfer sent in the morning if I get the wire instructions sent to you? So let's take a look at this example over here. So then the bad guy with this Gmail account impersonating people follows up with some wire instructions. Sometimes they'll put it in the PDF. Sometimes they'll try and make the wire instructions look legit. In this case, they just put it directly in the body of the email. They had an account name, an account number, ABA, bank name, bank address, beneficiary address of the property. Once you are done making the wire transfer payment, kindly scan and attach the transaction confirmation slip so I can keep it for documentation. And then the bad guy is like, uh-oh, the wire hasn't been sent yet. So they're following up later on in the afternoon. Hey, can you please confirm by responding if you get the wire details I sent earlier? If yes, kindly let me know by responding ASAP. Thank you. So how can we protect ourselves? What kind of strategies can we utilize? What kind of controls can we utilize to help reduce the risk of the threat to ourselves, our business partners, our families, our friends, our industry? One thing we can consider, and I would highly recommend, is multi-factor authentication. It's stronger than just using passwords to access accounts. When we go home, we have a key to open up the door. Just imagine a door with multiple locks where we need multiple keys to unlock that door. It works by requiring not one, but 2 different methods to prove who you are and who you say you are. And I mean, we know about this concept of multi-factor authentication because we use it in our daily lives. One of those examples is going up to the ATM machine. Of course, when we walk up to the ATM machine, we can't just say, hey, give me some money. We need something to be able to access our funds within the ATM. So we're going to need two things. With multi-factor authentication, we're going to need something that we know, which is our PIN, and we're going to need something that we have, which is our debit card. So that's basically the concept of multi-factor authentication. It's the same strategy with our email accounts. We're logging in with our email account, we're putting our username, we're putting our password, but that's something that we know. We also have something that we have, which is our phone. So we can generate that additional code, that additional key on our phone. And so even if the bad guy has our password, they can only get halfway in. They still need that code from our phone to be able to complete the login, complete the authentication to then be able to get into the email account. So if they don't have that, then they can't get in. They can't see our inbox, our sent items, our contacts, and things of that nature. Here's another thing that it's about remembering all these passwords of all these different portals and e-signatures and credit reports or whatever portals we have to log into. That's a lot of passwords to remember. And so then some people may be like, well, I'm just going to recycle the same password, or maybe I'm just going to do variations of my password. And maybe you log into some website once a month. You only need it once a month. And then a month passes, you forget what that password is. Now you have to go through the whole process of resetting your password and then logging back in, and then it's just a cycle. One thing that can help us is a password manager. And with a password manager can actually generate for you a unique password. So in theory, with the password manager, you could generate a unique password for every single website that you log into. So then you can be like, well, how am I going to remember all these passwords that are unique to every single website that I log into? You could have the password manager remember all those unique passwords, and then you would have a master password that you would use just to log into your password manager. And so then some people may say, well, geez, like what if LastPass gets hacked or that kind of thing? We can also protect LastPass with multi-factor authentication, just as we can protect our email accounts and a lot of other accounts with multi-factor authentication. We can also protect LastPass with multi-factor authentication. And usually a good organization, when you are subscribing to LastPass or whatever service, they're going to be using encryption to store your passwords on their servers. So even if their servers get hacked, it's not usually it's not going to be the raw password of what it looks like. It's going to be what's called a hash. And as long as you have a good, strong password, as long as it's in a hashed format, which nowadays a good, competent company such as LastPass is going to do, even if they got their hands on that hash, they'd still be able to to figure out what that password is. So that's something to keep in mind. That encryption, that's how we're able to communicate securely over the internet. That's just prevalent across this world. It relies on encryption to be able to protect data in transit that's moving across the internet, and also information that's being stored locally on hard drives and cloud services. And then, of course, backing up your files. We hear about the threat of ransomware. And if we get infected with the virus that has ransomware locking up all our files, so even though we have all our files on our desktop, we try and open up those files, we can't even open them because we got infected with ransomware, and now we need to pay some Bitcoin to get the key, and good luck if the key even works or how long it's going to take to decrypt your files. But it's always a good strategy to back up your files. And there's different options. Of course, there's the thumb drives or the USB hard drives, or you could even have what's called like a personal cloud or a private cloud at your business or at your home, where it's just a hard drive just sitting there. Or of course, you can use the cloud services as well. And the cloud services, those are also have the option of being protected with multi-factor authentication as well. Another recommendation is updating devices and software. When we get an update for our phones or for Windows or for our Apple device or Alexa or, you know, the Internet of Things. Nowadays, we have all these appliances and different devices that can be connected up to the internet. Chances are, if it can connect up to the internet, it can be updated. So sometimes an update is going to provide new features, or sometimes an update is going to fix a bug, or sometimes an update is going to fix a security issue. So let's talk about Equifax a couple of years ago and how they got breached. They had a website up that was, I believe it was allowing people to like file a claim or to have something reviewed on their credit report, but they had some outdated software. They had some outdated software running that web server. And by running that outdated web server software, the bad guys were able to get in, breach Equifax, and now Equifax was offering everyone identity and credit monitoring. And here goes a headline about Equifax breach caused by, you know, lone employee's error. Former CEO says, I mean, it's a group effort on this one. We all got to be in the game on this one when it comes to security. And as far as updating our devices, sometimes they can even be automatically set and we can even schedule it. So at the end of the day, we're done with work. You know, it's 10 p.m., 11 p.m., about to go to sleep. All right, I'll just set it to update. When I wake up in the morning, it'll be done. Since I'm going to sleep, I'm doing other things. So let me just set it up automatically. The truth of the matter is updates aren't perfect. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes something goes wrong with the update, and maybe something goes wrong or doesn't update right. That's unfortunately the truth of the matter. But with the strategy of backing things up, we always want to back things up. We can set our phones to be backed up, automatically backing stuff up to the iCloud or to Android or whatever. So the more strategies that we're utilizing, the lower risk is going to be for us as we try and protect ourselves. Utilizing more of these things and incorporating it into our daily lives, into our business, is going to help out at the end of the day. Antivirus protection software. We got to worry about malware. In our industry, we got to worry about rats, remote access Trojan. That's where it's like an attachment, maybe like a Microsoft Office file, a Word document, an Excel file that has a macro. You open up the document and it says, oh, your version of Microsoft Office isn't compatible. Please enable the macro. Well, when you enable the macro, what you're basically doing is you're executing code embedded into that file to do whatever, to start monitoring you, monitoring your keystrokes, monitoring what kind of business you're doing, and even utilizing your computer as a launch pad to then do other attacks. So Windows 10 comes with built-in Windows Security Defender software. So we want to make sure that that's updated and preferably automatically. By default, it's going to be updated automatically, and that comes with Windows. And the thing is that with a desktop or laptop, you're usually going to have two types of accounts. You're going to have a standard account and you're going to have an administrator account. Usually when you buy a computer fresh out the store, when you first log in, it's going to be an admin account, which means you can install anything. But if you have a home computer, you have some children that are going to log into it, maybe you would create another account for them known as a standard account. So then that way they'd have limited things that they can do. They can't install software and that kind of thing. But if we're always logging into a computer system as an admin, then if we get infected with some type of virus, then guess what? That virus is basically running as what our status is. So if we're running as an admin account, now that virus or remote access Trojan is going to be able to execute and do whatever it needs to do, because we're running under an account with elevated privileges to be able to install stuff. Mobile devices are a little different, since we're getting applications directly from one source, whether it be from the iTunes, Apple Store, or from the Google Play Store. Usually they'll vet those pretty good, but don't get me wrong. Sometimes some suspicious applications will slip through to those stores, but on mobile devices, it's a little more locked down. The risk, where the risk really lies, is going to be on our desktops and our laptop computers. Those are the primary type of devices that are being targeted. And so here goes an example of some ransomware. We had an email attachment, we opened it up, and maybe it was asking us to execute or enable a macro. We enabled it, and next thing you know, all our files are locked up. and we can't access our files anymore, all our documents, photos, whatever, databases, etc. And now they're trying to shake us down for some money. I mean, this is a screenshot from a couple of years ago. Nowadays, they're asking for, you know, thousands of dollars in Bitcoin. Let's talk about some other security concepts here, like least privilege. If we have a new gentleman named Ralph who's coming into our marketing department, we want to make sure whatever access he has into is focused on his title, his responsibility, his tasks. We don't want to give him access to the HR system, the benefits system, payroll files and systems, and that kind of thing. Also, unfortunately, we also got to be concerned about internal threats and people in cahoots or someone trying to, you know, print some checks or something like that. So that's where separation of duties comes into play. The concept of having more than one person required to complete a task to prevent fraud and error. You know, if someone's processing the invoices, they don't also have the ability to cut the check. And as organizations grow and grows, responsibilities must be delegated to put these into practice. Here goes some additional tips, our privacy settings. If we're utilizing social media for our marketing or trying to find leads on different systems, it would be my recommendation that people take a look at their privacy settings. For example, with LinkedIn, I believe by default with LinkedIn, people can see who all your connections are. So they can kind of build like a structure of who's all involved in your organization and looking at people's titles and kind of seeing who interacts and who's friends and who's connections. And that's going to help them. That's going to give them open source intelligence to then be able to be like, okay, these are partners here. So maybe I can create some email accounts and start trying to manipulate them and doing some impersonation. Same thing with our websites. We're utilizing our websites for marketing. We got all our teams published with the nice photos, got the telephone numbers, have the email addresses. Sometimes it's better to just have a contact us form instead of having that information published, because otherwise the bad guys, they will abuse it. They'll gather up that information. The next thing you know, you're receiving text messages. It's not just going to be email. You're going to get voice calls known as phishing, or you're going to get text messages to try and manipulate you as well. So they will attempt any angle to try and socially engineer people. So when in doubt, validate face-to-face or via a known phone number in your contacts list, encouraging the buyers to put your contact information, save it in their contacts list so they have those trusted parties that they can reach out to, and it's already stored within their contacts. And also just encouraging the use of technology and secure portals to establish a workflow. Nowadays, with these applications where people can upload stuff by taking photos of their documentation, uploading it into a secure portal, and maybe with that application that we have installed on their phone, maybe that's how we can maintain our connection with those clients to continue doing business with them in the future. As long as we have an established workflow of how we're interacting with our clients and where they're going to be uploading their documentation or information. Now we have an established workflow. So now all of a sudden, if we get a sketchy email that's talking about sharing something from Dropbox, now it's out of place because it's outside of our workflow of how we normally interact and obtain information. And when we receive something suspicious, whether it be from email or a Facebook impersonation, catfish, or text message or whatnot, utilizing Google, we can figure out who we can report those to. Through Facebook, we can report it directly through Facebook, or maybe if you have AT&T or Verizon, US Cellular, there's ways to report those suspicious text messages to the carrier so they can investigate further and shut them down. Because I mean, here's the thing, yeah, we could block them, but what if our other business partners got contacted by that same party? If we're just blocking that person but not trying to report it, if we're not reporting it to our IT department, if we're not reporting it to our information security department, then there may be delayed action. And if there's delayed action to report that suspicious bad guy, well, then they're going to continue targeting people until they get someone to fall for it. And then also just establishing a validation process for changes to wires, payments, direct deposits. any kind of transaction, if all of a sudden someone's like, you know, hey, we need to change up how we're doing this established method of the transaction, find a way to validate that outside of email, doing it with some trusted parties involved. And then another interesting thing is when people are going to apply for a loan, getting their credit run, now all of a sudden they're getting pre-screened offers because maybe Equifax or TransUnion or Experian, now they're taking that information and selling it to competitors. So now all of a sudden the borrowers or clients are receiving pre-screened offers. So sometimes that'll come through the desk of information security because they're like, oh, you know, I'm applying for a loan here and, you know, you ran my credit and all of a sudden I'm getting these pre-screened offers. We need to let them know that they need to opt out of those type of offers. Otherwise the credit bureaus are going to start selling that information and then they're going to start getting contacted by other parties. So I see we have 10 minutes here. So I'll leave maybe 5 minutes. I don't know how much, if we're on a hard stop here, but I just want to quickly illustrate some other information as well to the team here. This is an email article from Proofpoint. They're basically process email for enterprises and corporations. This was published back February 6, 2020. New real estate research, attackers target the full transaction chain. So they're just basically reiterating these type of phishing emails. Here goes a phishing email. Type in your username, type in your password. It looks legit. Log into this Microsoft portal. Targeting a real estate company CEO right there. Here goes, I'm not sure what portal this is trying to impersonate, but once again, just trying to get your email address and password. Real estate, Microsoft Word and PDF documents, secured, protected files, using those buzzwords, encrypted, secured. If we're not paying attention, hovering over that link, understanding the final destination of where it's trying to take us, they're just trying to use all that lingo to try and entice us to click on that information. Some more phishing emails using like the blurred out invoice or the blurred out closing disclosure, secure document, click here, get your password stolen, PDF, so credit card authorization, trying to harvest, look at this, they're trying to get agent name, credit card number, information. Are you available? Kindly need you to get a task done for me. So just using lingo that just seems like English is not their first language. So we just need to be aware of the greater risks. Everyone involved in real estate transactions should understand about the risks. Proofpoint here, their recommended multi-factor authentication to secure our accounts, verify the sending and receiving of attachments, making sure that there's no sketchy attachments that might have a virus, or maybe someone took some of the wire instructions and edited them with Adobe Acrobat, Foxit Phantom, put some different routing and account number in there. And let's take a look at this too. This is that ISC squared, IC3.gov website from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, also giving some additional tips as well. What's the recommendations? Enabling multi-factor authentication on all email accounts. Verify all payment changes and transactions in person or via known telephone number. Educating employees and the clients and the customers about these business email compromise scams, including preventative strategies, how to identify phishing emails. And then, you know, for the IT administrators, sometimes there's just going to be some technical stuff behind the scenes for the email systems, but it would be in the best interest of the organization to prohibit automatic forwarding. So that way, if some bad guy tries to compromise you, if a bad guy compromises an employee and they don't have multi-factor authentication, that's what the bad guy might do. So also just disabling automatic forwarding. So if those rules are in place, they still won't go outbound to wherever. And that's my presentation for today. If you have any questions, I have some answers, or I can do my best to answer them, but appreciate everyone's attention, and thank you to Matt and Exit Realty for inviting me to speak to you today.
Does anybody have any questions for John? Great stuff, man. This is really informative, really good stuff. I really appreciate that. The only question that I would have is, what can someone do if they have been a victim? They've clicked through and given up a password or a routing number. What immediately should someone do if they've been a victim of this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the government actually has a website portal that talks about it more in depth and where you can file a complaint. So I'm going to put that directly in our chat window here to share
Okay.
that with everyone. And this is the
Great.
web page right here. The web page, Federal Bureau of Investigation Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3. And here's where you can file a business email compromise complaint so we can get the FBI involved to investigate further and shut down those bad guys responsible.
All right. Appreciate that. All right. Well, with no other questions, thank you, John. Really appreciate your time today, and hope you all found this informative, and have a good day, everybody.